Hey, good morning. It's Ronin Man here. I want to talk about the proliferation or the concept of the post-wall woman and why I don't agree and why I have not made a video about post-wall women. And it's not easy to understand. So I want you to really listen to this one because I think my fundamental belief is that if we have ideas that are incorrect, even if they feel good, even if they provide, in other words, if they have some, there's some reason for them, we feel better after saying them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a reason in itself. But in the end, we will be judged by the truth or the inaccuracy of our ideas. And our lives will be better, the better that we understand life. And the more accurately we call life, and the less we let our biases and egos and things like that get in the way, we make better decisions. And that's what this thing is all about. This channel is all about that, is making the best decisions that you possibly can to make your life as kick-ass as you possibly can. So one aspect of that is when you allow an idea to creep in that doesn't serve you. So the post-wall woman, there's a lot of videos, and I'm going to try to articulate this concept. There's a lot of videos by MGTOW, people in the manosphere about a post-wall. And my feeling is, and I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, definitely, like, I get a good laugh out of some of them, definitely. And there's nothing wrong with laughing, and there is truth there's truth to all this stuff, definitely. But what I don't like about it, and I think is not good, is the videos, the concept. Here's the concept. You already know it, but I'll just kind of articulate a little bit, is that a woman has a certain age where she's attractive to men, and there's kind of an expiry date as far as as far as marriage. I'm going to say just from the get-go, just from the very beginning, is that is not really true statistically. Women still get married. You see people getting married in retirement communities. You see people getting married many, many times, 7 times. You see people getting married. So the concept that a woman is past a date where there's kind of an agreement among all men that nobody would marry her is really, really not true. It's just really not true. A woman can get married. Now, of course, the less attractive you are, as either a man or a woman, the lower quality mate you're going to pick, or you'll have the options, the options will dwindle the less attractive you are. Okay, so whether it's due to whatever reason, financial, age, just basic genetics, sense of humor, whatever it is, there's things that will affect that. But the concept, the feeling of these videos, this is just my feeling watching. There's kind of a self-righteousness to it. There's like, hey, there's a preachingness to it. There really is. There's a preachingness. There's like, women, if you don't listen to me, then you're going to be lonely and miserable. And this is an easy trap to fall into for men. Very, very easy. It's the concept of always being right, or like wanting that feeling of gotcha, and that gotcha feeling, as fulfilling as that is, it's not a recipe for continued success as an individual. Part of life is admitting the difficult parts, which is like that you're wrong, right? That you make mistakes, right? That you contribute to things, right? You contribute to things that aren't good, and then you have to say, wait, I'm contributing to something that's not good, and this is not serving me. This is not going to be good for me long term, right? So part of it is I think a lot of, self-help or improving yourself or just having a good fucking life, not going down the wrong road, is that ability to realize that you were making a mistake or things had changed, you had misjudged something, and there's an aspect where you'd like to correct. When they flew to the moon successfully, I think there was I forgot how many times it was, but it's like 98% of the time that the ship was off target. and they constantly had to like turn it back to go back towards the moon. It was constantly off target, but it was that the reason why they reached the moon is because they constantly adjusted. Okay, they constantly said, hey, we're wrong. We're going the wrong way. Go that way. Move a little bit that way. And then they didn't say to themselves, hey, we've already done this 3 times. This is like, either you guys are right or wrong. I thought you guys were engineers. What the hell's wrong with you guys? No, they just constantly said, nope, 1 more degree this way, 1 more degree that way, right? They kept doing that because even like 1 or 2 degrees off, and you end up absolutely, if you watch that Apollo 13 movie, if you just a couple degrees, actually my dad worked at NASA, so I know a little bit about it, but just a tiny bit off, and what happens is then you miss the moon because you end up quite far from the moon, and the moon's gravity, that was a key part in their ability to get back to Earth. They had to go around the moon a few times and get speed up, right? And then whoosh, go down like a somebody that's throwing, I forgot that, the discus, right? They spin around it and then they throw it, right? That's what they had to do to get back because they just barely had enough power, enough fuel to reach to get back to Earth, and they couldn't make any mistakes. So they made 1 million mistakes, but they couldn't make any mistakes that were not corrected. So that's the spirit of this one, okay? Is that always be ready to be wrong. If you really want to have a great life, you got to be ready to be wrong, because sometimes it's being wrong is, it's like not even your fault at all. Like obviously, like, you just totally fell into something. Sometimes you come across something you've never seen before, and then next thing you know, you shouldn't be there. This is not going well, and then you're like, oh wait, I made a mistake, right? So the wall stuff. Okay, so what's wrong with it? What's wrong with the post-wall videos? My feeling, okay, I could be totally wrong on this one. Okay, this one I'm going to go right off the bat that this is my own bias. It could be wrong. The ones I listen to, videos I hear, as an experienced guy in this world, I get the ones that are going really, really, really off on this one. To me, and I could be, again, this could be completely biased and wrong, but I gotta say, this is my instinct, I'm gonna say it. They tend to be the guys who are not very good with women in the beginning. So it's like this feeling of I never got what I wanted, and so I'm going to, I'm frustrated, right? I'm not happy with what my life has become. And it's a way to kind of lecture people, It's a like kind of to be right, always right. The attitude is not of self-reflection or even deep consideration of things. Like just even statistics alone. Like I said, people get married at any age. It happens. Now, I'm going to put a caveat on that getting married because most studies that I've read say that people that get married and meet in college, university is the magic time, okay, for marriage. It is. It just statistically is. The marriages that are met, they first met in college, not the girl next door, the ones that are met in college, those are the ones statistically that are the most successful. And maybe it's because, I think it's because of hormones and age. I think that's kind of the age when we, maybe just genetically or whatever, historically, we're kind of ready. We've already matured enough. Our bodies are ready. And then, of course, we have the logistics of often these days, when you go to school, you're away from your family. So you're kind of away from that influence of society. So you can start to reinvent yourself and try new things, right? That's what people do. And that's a very growing good thing. And so that's what happens. You get conservative girls raised in very conservative homes, and they get to a place like Isla Vista, which I was at recently in Santa Barbara, which is like the best college town in the fucking world. Isla Vista, next to UCSB. I'm telling you right now, that place is party time. It's so good. If you ever are in the area, stop by there, get an Airbnb in Isla Vista. That place is hilarious. Okay, it's just fantastic city, but real party town, and I like that energy. I really, really like that energy. of people just having fun. They've just gotten away from their families. They're trying new things. Like nobody's judging. Everybody's wearing whatever the fuck they want. And so there's this spirit of experimentation, which I think is good to never lose that. And it's not easy, man. Don't get me wrong. Saying you're fucking wrong or admitting you're wrong is fucking not easy, man. Even for me. Like I have a friend that I often like throw ideas off, And one of the reasons why we hang out is because the guy has very different, in some ways we're very similar, but in other ways we're completely different people, absolutely different people. And he will say, like right off the bat, like I'll have some great idea for whatever, and then he'll just go, like basically that's fucking stupid, like no way. And then he'll have his own concept, and the guy is so intelligent that his concept has been well thought out. Like even though he just thought about it in the moment, like he's putting together ideas that he's thought about for a long time. And every time he says that, it's like I'm all excited about an idea, and then I realize, like I listen to him, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, damn. It's just like a smackdown, It's a real smackdown. And I recommend to have in your life intelligent men who can give you that fucking smackdown. And I really, really mean that. This is one of the key things to my growth, is that I have people in my life that don't necessarily take, and that's partly what makes, I think that's what really helps make these videos better, is because I throw around ideas and I toss them around, and then with smart guys who know me, and they also know what's going on in the world. And so together, often they end up having a different vibe once they get to publication, right? Once I start to hit record, right? So, and one of the ideas is like this kind of post-wall thing. So what's wrong with the post-wall? What's fucking wrong? So there's things that are right, because behind a lot of these videos about post-wall is that understanding, okay, which I think is there in the videos, is the understanding that people meet about in university. That's the kind of the age, the magic age. So I'm going to give them that. That is absolutely, I've seen that to be the case with my friends, with my sister and brother. Like there's no question about it. Either high school or college, that right there, that young age, you're still impressionable. And yeah, I'm going to add in high school for sure on this one. Yeah, high school and college. And in my life, that's my own experiences. The studies I read were college, but I've seen a lot of high school too. So, but it's that young bond. And maybe it's something about that bond when you're young. There might be, when women have babies, they have oxytocin. It's a chemical is released in their bloodstream. And that is the reason why they love their children. Period. It's not because they're good people. It's not because they're bad people. It's because the chemical makes them love the child. It just does. It's a natural thing. It starts being released after the baby's born, and the mother cannot help, and the father also gets a dose of oxytocin. And that is nature's way of protecting that child, because we feel great love for that little kid, that little spark, right? And so that is what keeps these are the type of things that are just amazing about life. You're like, wow, if that wasn't there, right? But a lot of times guys get blamed for these things that they have, right? Like testosterone. It's like guys are like toxic for being healthy and like having hormones. Like this is I really think sometimes society is going insane. Like I'm serious. Like this is like one of the fundamental things about life is that there's a few things that are important in life, okay? There's a few things that are more important than other things. And reproduction and survival are the two really important ones. And testosterone is one of those key things that both men and women have testosterone, okay? It's not a male hormone. Women have testosterone, and their testosterone rises as they get older a lot, especially after menopause. So we all have testosterone. Testosterone plays a very important role. If it's bad in men, it's bad in women. Then if testosterone is so fucking evil and toxic, I would have to say that old ladies are toxic. And they're getting more toxic because they have more testosterone as they age. Every woman does. So anybody gives you shit about testosterone, say, well, as you get older, you're going to get more and more toxic. Like you're the least toxic now. Really, they need to know this. People need to understand. Like, and same. I say the same to men. Is like, you say, women are emotional, men are logical. Men, the mammalian brain is that social, the aspect of mirroring other people and society and interactions and interpersonal relations. And that is what we are built for. This is like our number one. This is like we evolved to live in groups of 150, small tribes. And all about it is pinging off other people, working with other people, understanding how other people feel, how angry they are in a second or a microsecond by looking at their face. And these are the things that cause us to be successful. And this goes all the way down, guys. Your emotional brain, okay, when you watch, let's just say you're alone drinking beers, watching, let's say, sports, and you think, I'm alone. I'm not, this is not emotional. This is not human interaction. It is because you're watching people play, okay, and you're supporting and you're interacting mentally, and then you're remembering, and you talk about it later. This is all social. You can do, there's everything is basically human beings is related to, being social and interacting with other humans. It's all, everything at work, everything in the family, sports, friendships. I mean, this is like all mammalian brain stuff, right? This is all emotional brain. So the idea, there's so many concepts that are they're out there, and I'm just like, wait a second. It just doesn't, it's like, I understand there's a frustration that goes behind that, and that's very valid. Absolutely. But you have to be careful. You have to be careful because you got to say, like, the way to really start whenever you feel something like that is to say, I feel incredibly frustrated with women, like with this woman, like I feel very upset and frustrated, and I feel alone, and I feel this and I feel that. That's the way to start. Not with big sweeping judgments, like, oh, there's this and that. And it's like, you don't want to hear any, like, basically arguments against that. That's not going to help you. That's not going to help you to improve, right? That's not going to help. So the post-wall videos, like I said, there tends to be a preachiness to them. There's kind of that. And I don't want to get on them too much. I just want to say, not so much the videos. Okay, let's just talk about the concept, the post-wall concept, right? The post-wall concept is that women are, I guess I'll try to say it, like kind of lonely, and they wish they had listened to you. They wish they had locked down a guy when he's younger. But the problem with this is the people that a lot of the guys, and you can ask yourself if you're one of these guys, the guys who are saying this are the same guys who are saying they don't want to get married, right? But actually they're saying, like, kind of like, really, it's obvious that they did want to get married, and they do, right? A lot of times, like this one thing I agree, that Rollo Tomasi is the idea that we kind of put down what we can't have. Oh, I'm not interested in Lamborghinis, like the guy says. It's like, yeah, that's so true. It's so true. And I think also, like, what I think is missing, though, there's the concept is not complete, because the human being is incredibly flexible, and that we do adjust. We do actually change. There's not this feeling of wanting, I don't have a feeling of wanting a Lamborghini, I can tell you that. It's not like, hey, you're just putting down these like incredible urges. To me, Lamborghini is just some brand of Italian unreliable, smelly item that I would have to pay a lot of money to have to keep up. And also, it doesn't fly around with me, so it's always going to be in one location, right? Which I travel. So it's like a car doesn't mean as much when you travel. When you stay in one place, maybe I could see the envy getting stronger if you're always living in, say, one city. But if you travel, like if you fly places, you can't take these cars. You can't take your house. This is what helps you. Actually, travel really helps you, because it helps you to understand, have a different perspective on stuff, because you break away from it and you're like, wait, I have this perfect house. I have this perfect, stereo. I have this perfect TV, perfect car, perfect drive. I go to the perfect burrito place. Everything's perfect. But my life is incredibly limited because here I am in this totally new place without any of that stuff, and I'm completely happy. Like I'm loving this, right? So it's kind of both true, right? So I would say that not everybody has that same feeling. It's easy to say that every woman's like this, every man's like this. We're all trying to we have these incredible desires that we can't get, and so we basically put them down. That is true, but it's also not true, right? Definitely not true. And also to the very fact that humans are so malleable and flexible that our beliefs and our wants actually do change over time. This is what I think guys like Roland and younger guys don't really realize, is that you will change. What you want will change. Like literally. And this is the thing, this is the key thing I'm talking about, is that you become, this is the scary thing. When you start to accept more and more, you get better at that, like breaking the ego and like changing quickly and realizing you're wrong and making that adjustment, like that spaceship that rocket going to the moon. You're constantly able to change. What happens is, and this is the really scary part, for me this was scary, is when you realize, like you start to realize things as you get more and more malleable, more and more able and flexible to adjust to new ideas, new thoughts, new ways of thinking, new ways of acting, new ways of, kind of everything, right? You're just constantly improving. When there's things you can't even imagine that are out there that you'll enjoy, right? So as you find these things, you get more of these things. You come across what I thought was, for myself, was the big challenge. The big challenge for me, and I can't even remember what it was exactly that made me feel this way, but I remember I was changing. I was just constantly changing. And this flies directly in the face of that kind of concept that you always want. You put down things you can't have. I remember thinking to myself, I was like, wait a second. I can see now, I was honest with myself. I'm like, I can see now that what I was doing was not the best way to live for me now, right? Not the best way. And so I want to try this new thing. But I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, if I go to that model of living, okay, that is the exact kind of guy that I used to hate. So it's like this idea is like, could I become the guy that I hated when I was younger? That is a scary thought. And I think for myself, I made that decision that I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to be the guy that my younger self would have hated. And that is a fundamental, for me, that is a really important concept. I accepted that I am willing to do that. And what that means is deep, because when you meet somebody who's just like you, who's younger, they might not like you or appreciate you. The very guy if you could meet yourself, you'd be like, yourself might not like yourself. But the thing you have to understand is that your younger self didn't have all the experience of life and was in a certain time of their life. That's the thing too, is that things change, and when you're younger, you don't realize things change. You think they're going to kind of you have limited you've seen things not that many times. The more you read, the better. But if you still have limitations, you're like, I never, just simple example was in the Japanese bubble in the 80s when Japan was on top of the world, richest place, money, money, money. Nobody thought it was going to change. Everybody thought Japan was going to take over the world. It was an accepted concept. Go back and read any of the old books or magazines from the time, and it was just like, get used to it. Japan's going to take over, and it will be, kind of America down below, Japan making basically all the manufactured products, controlling all the money, the banks. And then obviously it didn't happen, but at the time, it was difficult to see that it wasn't going to happen because it seemed pretty obvious. Japanese companies, if you went to Times Square or anywhere to Trafalgar Square in London, you look and like all the fucking signs were Japanese companies. Everyone, if you look back at go back to Times Square 1980s and look at the signs that are there in the picture. All Japanese, NEC, Hitachi, Sansui, Toshiba. These were like that was Mitsubishi. These were all There was like no like Teslas, there was no Dells. It was all Japanese. And we thought that was going to continue. That didn't continue. In fact, it kind of imploded in like spectacular fashion. But that was impossible to know at the time. Like really, seriously, nobody knew. Everybody says afterwards that the fucking, the Tuesday night quarterback, whatever you call it, like I knew this was going to happen. Nobody knew. Like we just had no clue. We were just like, whoa. And so the concept that I thought that I was in Japan and I thought Japan would never stop rising. And that's partly why I was there. I was very excited by that. And I was really enjoying it, being part of that. And so when Japan started imploding, it was kind of hard to understand. I couldn't really wrap my head around it at first. It was difficult to understand. And over time, it's become more clear. Okay, so your younger self, okay, this will help you to overcome this barrier, is of becoming the person you hate, is your younger self does not know some things yet. And so you got to forgive your younger self in a way for not knowing that things are going to change. Because if your younger self, for example, let's say, now you would never think this, but let's just use this as an example. Let's say your younger self said, I'm going to leave Japan. Let's say my younger self said, hey, you're going to leave Japan. You're going to never go, live. Well, I'd be like, you idiot. Like, just, you got to stay here. Like, this is where it's happening. Like, this is where all the decisions that affect the world are happening, but the information that's missing is that the Japanese economy totally crumbles and never comes back, and like everything gets taken over by other countries. And you see like incredible manufacturing coming out of South Korea, and obviously back then even Taiwan and China, and also U.S. manufacturing is no joke these days. U.S. manufacturing is serious. If you look at the statistics, not the political pages, if you look at how much manufacturing actually is going on in the U.S., it's pretty incredible. It's really, I'm not hesitate to say it's all-time high, but it was recently where American manufacturing was all-time high. But very few people know that. It's funny. Few people care about the facts. It's hard for me to get over that. But no, manufacturing moved out of Japan, right? And now with the high yen and everything, like obviously the aging population, like a lot of things I didn't know. And that is about economics and let's say, all these huge macroeconomics, all these things that you can't predict. Okay, now in your own life, it's the same way. There's a lot of things that you can't really understand. There's no way to understand until you experience them, right? So you have to kind of forgive your younger self for not knowing everything. Your younger self was doing great. It was kicking ass for the environment, But as the environment changed, you make different decisions, and sometimes the environment is only in your understanding of life, right? So you might think this is definitely the way it is, and here's the thing: at that stage in your life, that might have been the best way to be. Like I think for myself, my 20s, okay. I'll say my teens and my 20s, when at that time, I just had to, I'm telling you, I was like driven by testosterone. I had to basically, if I saw a woman, I had to fucking taste her pussy. Like I had to it's like any woman, I just had to get in there. Like it was just going to happen. Like I was going to find a way to get in there, Like of course I didn't come across this way, but this was my mindset. And I didn't even know it because it was so part of my body. It was so natural. It was something. And now I realize that was for myself, and that was a very healthy reaction to my environment. Environment means outside and inside. So my chemical environment inside my own body and my outside, I was living very natural and designed to do that as a man. Okay, just like when you watch an animal, and they do something, they have behaviors, right? You watch an otter or whatever. Whenever you see a new animal you've never seen before, you kind of have to watch it for a while to see the characteristics of this new animal that you've never met before, right? And you're like, oh, these animals, they do this, they hide in here. They're afraid of this noise. And oh, no way, they do that. It's like you're kind of like, whoa, look at that animal. Oh, I didn't think he'd do that. I didn't think he'd be you're always constantly, whenever you see a new animal, we're used to it because we learn so quickly. Humans are such adaptive machines that we learn so fucking fast. But if you could slow it down, you would realize that every time you see a new animal, there's this kind of curiosity. You're thinking like, whoa, because you kind of know every animal is very different, right? That dogs are very different than cats, right? And mosquitoes are very, very different from bears, right? And so you watch these things and you're like, wow, look at that. Look at that. Okay, now I understand they have this characteristic. And so, but we don't judge, obviously, a bear, okay, for not taking a shower. The bear is smelly. Yeah, I was next to a bear when I was a kid. I was picking, I don't know if I ever told the story, but I went to my grandmother's house, right, in northern Minnesota. And she always had this huge bowl of berries, blueberries. Other kinds of berries too, but blueberries were my favorite. And she always had this big bowl of blueberries, and I would just eat them up super fast. Like I'd pour them in a bowl, pour milk on them and sugar, and I'd just eat the whole bowl. And she was fine with that, no problem. But there was one day when she was going to teach me something, right? So she said, she did it very, very slyly. She said, well, let's go, you love blueberries. Let's go get blueberries. And so then let's go pick blueberries, and I was like, oh, okay. So she gave me a bucket or something. And I went out and she showed me where. And I said, well, where are they? And she said, well, you have to look for them. And I was like, well, because my mind was, because I would eat big bowls of them. Like I just loved them, right? I never imagined they were so hard to find. they're freaking hard to find, right? It's hard work just to find a few. So I was like, really? So I started looking around. I'm like getting all scratched up, I'm like going through the bushes. And then I find like one little one, I'd eat it, and then I'd keep moving around trying to find a few more, put it in the bucket. And then it looks so pathetic. When you're a kid, you're learning things. You're just looking you got this huge bucket. And then you look down, there's 2 or 3 berries in there. And you're like life is so disappointing. It's so fucking hard, that was kind of the feeling I got. I was like, and I kept thinking that there was a place where there was going to be just pounds of blueberries, kilos I could just throw in there and come home. But it wasn't like that. It was every blueberry I had to get scratched up. I had to go through the bushes. I had to go through the trees. I had to find these little blueberries and then put them in this bucket. And then slowly I was able to start building up. So that finally I covered the bottom of the bucket with blueberries. You couldn't see the bottom anymore. And so then I'm cruising around, and next thing I know, I smell this terrible smell. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? And I look next to me, and there's this huge bear. I mean, this bear was huge. I was tiny. Right? I don't know how old I was, but I was tiny. And I looked at the bear, and then he was standing up on his little back legs. And what he was doing is he was eating blueberries too. And he was trying to get blueberries way up high. So he was stretched as high as he could stretch. And I mean, I don't know how tall that bear was. I'm not really sure. I'm not a bear expert, but it's the only time I've been next to a bear. But that bear, to me, as a little kid, it looked like it was about 9 feet tall. Seriously. It was absolutely massive, and it smelled like crazy, right? And I froze, and then I thought he's going to eat me. I'm dead, And then what he was doing is I was picking berries one by one. But what he would do is he would just grab the whole bush and then just start eating everything, the leaves and chewing on the whole thing, right? And he looks down at me like, kid, you're not a pro, And then, and then he just starts eating the bush. He just didn't even care about me at all. He didn't want to eat me. And I was so scared. And I backed away. And finally, luckily I didn't. It was funny. I didn't run in front of the bear because that's what you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to run because then he wants to chase you, right? So anyway, I backed away slow and I got away from him. Then I ran home. And but either way, I could say that bear. I could be really harsh on that bear and say, hey, he doesn't have any manners. Anybody with any kind of sense would take a shower and wash up. At least he could go into the river. Maybe he can't use soap or something. But that's obviously unrealistic because the bear is doing exactly what the bear is supposed to do. He's doing what he's capable of doing. He's living the life that is the most natural and the bear life. That's what he's doing, right? He's got the bear necessities, right? So he's doing his bear thing, right? It's all good. And that's the same way that we are. And that's what guys need to know that. You need to know that your preferences, okay, which I talked about in the older women episode, women aging, it's good. You are supposed to have preferences. You are supposed to be the way you are. Okay? You are. That is the most, and your job in life, okay, maturing and growing, is that you find out more about yourself as you get older, and you start to learn that you're not the same as every other guy, and that you have things that you like and things that you don't like, and then as the things that you like give you motivation to start businesses and professions and choose friendships, places that you want to live based on those things. In a very abusive family, the parents will force the children to do what they want them to do. But a healthy parent and a healthy child will start to look inside themselves and find out what they want and what they desire and what they need. It's not a hand job fucking thing. No, this is like a fundamental aspect of what you're supposed to do, okay? If you don't do this, then you have all kinds of fucking problems, okay? You got all kinds of problems you got to deal with. And you still have the need, which is the need to enlarge yourself and to learn and to keep improving, right? So that's still there. Meanwhile, you have all these things wrong, okay? So it's your natural self, okay? And my natural self in my 20s, I was like that bear. I didn't, like the bear does not take a shower. The bear cannot send an email. The bear, there's certain things the bear cannot do. Cannot drive a car. But he does what he's supposed to do. He does the bear things. He lives his life, and that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to eat fish. He's supposed to do these things. He's supposed to chase people that run, right? That is his nature. That is what he's designed to do. And this is what this is. I don't think there's a big creator, but I mean, this to me is the closest thing to happiness, is when birds, animals, humans are doing what is finding out what they're good at, what they like, and then enlarging that, and then living in a healthy social environment that supports them in that way. And humor and all these things come out of that. Whenever you have an abused or neglected person, they will lose this sense of imagination, this sense of growth. And that's one thing that a lot of guys, in MGTOW are traumatized because of something that happened to them. And so the first thing you'll notice is there'll be like a blank look on a lot of people's faces because they've been through something that's very difficult. But once you get beyond that, okay, once you grow, this is not permanent. It's not fucking permanent at all. It can be if you don't do anything about it, but it doesn't have to be, not at all. You can totally grow beyond these things. In fact, then you can even have a deeper understanding of yourself, right? So it actually can be a spur to growth, actually, in some ways, definitely. For me, it is. Okay, but then I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, you want to accept yourself, accept who you are, and accept other people. So the post-wall women, right? Post-wall women. Let's go back to what we started this with. And what is the thing with them? You can go around, if you really believe, if you believe that every woman that kind of missed that small window of opportunity is very, I guess, unhappy, and maybe they're regretful. I guess that would be like one of the, beliefs, is that they should have listened and they wish they would have listened, or maybe they can't admit they're wrong, or whatever it is that is in your mind. What is in your mind? Like think about it. Like, get it on paper. What do you think women feel when they reach 35? What do you think? Like, and then to start to test that against reality. Because my understanding or my belief is that a lot of married women are also not happy. A lot of married women are extremely unhappy. And a lot of men are unhappy in marriage, right? And so if I don't see, I see all humans as having things that they feel they missed. They have desires. They have, things that they like, limitations, and so I think that I don't know exactly what women think about this one. I can't really say. But I just doubt the idea that they're really wishing they had listened to these guys and done, because getting married is not the solution for women either. It's just not. It's not the solution to happiness. No fucking way. Go around and ask women who are married and say, does your partner fulfill you in every way? Are you, you know what I mean? Like, do you feel like you made, you would not change a thing? You marry this guy and, you would do this, you do that. And a lot of them might say, if you can get them honest, they might say, no, I actually regret this and I wish I would have done that and, this and that. And also single women will also have regrets and desires. And I think that probably a lot of marriage is just if you look at it, it's just not that attractive to either sex, really. Marriage is not. It's not what it was a concept, kind of made up by society. A lot of the modern marriage concept was made up by religion, actually, and also necessity. I will say this. Okay, I will say this about marriage being happy, is in my experience, in my history watching people, I have seen marriages that I think are the closest thing to happiness, but they are not because the people did something right or wrong. The reason was necessity. So they needed each other. So I was in the jungle in Indonesia back in '89, and there was no hotels, and it was getting cold. Jungles get cold at night, by the way. They get pretty darn cold. And I was going through the jungle looking for this waterfall, and I couldn't find it. It was spent like 3 days looking for this fucking waterfall. And so I just didn't know what to do. So it was nighttime, and it was getting night, and we met a young couple, and the wife, get this, the wife was 13 and the man was 16, and they had their own house, and they took us in. They gave us the master bedroom, whatever you call it. They're in the jungle, the one blanket they had, and then which was still freezing cold. The woman, it was so uncanny because she was like cooking for us, and she was like bowing and being a total wife. Like, it was amazing watching this. It was almost like another world or something. And then I said, finally they spoke some English. I said, how old are you guys? Basically. And I was, at the time, I was 22 or something. And they said, no, I was 24. And they said, she said, he said, well, I'm 16, the man of the house, he said. And then and my wife is 13. And I was like, wow, and they look pretty happy. And I've seen in the jungle, I saw a lot of couples like that were old, who had met that age. And they basically needed to survive the elements. I mean, there was huge snakes, there was cobras, there was all kinds of animals. There was wild orangutans everywhere around there. We saw tons of wild orangutans, which is absolutely amazing, by the way. I mean, like, real, true, wild animals in the jungle is amazing. It's really hard to find them. That's the problem. They're very invisible animals in the jungle because they hear you. They know what's up. They move out of the way. It's only in rare circumstances that you run into animals like tigers, things like that. There's a lot of Sumatran tigers in that area at the time, but you just didn't see them because they would see you. They would smell you and they would move away. But the orangutans, the only reason why I think we saw them is because they were down in this valley, and the wind was blowing our direction up the valley. So they were down on these trees. And the tallest trees in the jungle, you cannot believe how tall trees get in the jungle. They're absolutely they're awesome. It's the only word. They're just they're towering, awesome trees in the jungle. And so they were up on the top of this tree. And the forest, I guess the reason why we could see them is a couple of reasons. One was they were clearing the forest at the time was for tea. They were growing tea. And that area, they were clearing the forest to grow tea. This is before, now it would probably be palm oil. But they've been cutting down the jungle forever for different reasons. So at the time it was tea. They had tea, all these tea plantations everywhere that it was either jungle or tea plantation, right? And so they had cleared out the area, but there was still these huge tall trees in this valley looking down. And so we were on this little trail, and then I saw them down there, and they couldn't smell us because the wind was coming up so strong that they just couldn't smell us upwind. And they were on this tree, and it must have been a family of them, and they were swinging, and they did this thing where they're like, woo! They like make this huge sound. Like, you cannot believe how deep and powerful their voices are too. I can't even do what they did, but that's as close as I can get to it. And they, which is pathetic. These guys have amazing voices. They could be on, what is it, America's Got Talent show or something, you know? These orangutans. But they was just absolutely a fucking beautiful thing. And I forgot what I was telling them, but like, this is life, man. We are like that, man. You are like that fucking orangutan. You're like that bear. And be yourself, but also realize that you will, if you are healthy and if you keep adjusting, okay, you might become, very good chance, the guy that you would have hated when you're younger. And I think that is the ultimate. You're not trying to do that, obviously. There's no, anytime you're putting you're trying to become something or make yourself into something, you're down the wrong path. It's more of a natural discovery, is what I'm talking about. And a natural kind of discarding of things that don't work anymore. You know, it's like you're discarding. You've used it up now. You've used that up. You know, that part of me, that era of my life, that is not there anymore. I don't have that same desire. I could pretend like it was. Okay, I'm physically fine. Okay, I can walk down, especially in here in Thailand. You see it all the time. The really, really old guys. With quite young girls, and I can go down anytime I wanted. You know, I'm right downtown Bangkok. I could be down in some brothel or some girly bar if I wanted to, and I could be trying to, or I could be picking up girls. I mean, either one. You know, like literally in 2 minutes, I could be in a state where it would look to you like I hadn't changed for my 20s. But see, that's not where I am, and I accept that. I realize that this bear, okay, has gotten older. And that means not what I thought it used to mean. I used to think getting older was like something to be embarrassed about. It's something to cover up, you know, something you're trying to not avoid. But it's not the case. Actually, it is a chance to see new things and to grow. And and if you do it right, is that you will groove with yourself. And it's kind of an amazing process, actually. The ability to be flexible enough to and intuitive enough to allow yourself to change, and also to kind of spot those new desires, those new paths that you didn't see before, those new things that, and I think a lot of it is chemistry. You know, they say that better living through chemistry. You know, chemistry is in your own body, is what I'm talking about. And if you learn to follow that path, and to accept yourself, accept your desires, and accept your changes, you will have a good life. Like, really, life is designed to be awesome. Okay, the basic life that we're given on this planet is a fucking awesome package. So if you're not getting that, you know, go back and listen to these things again, because I found it. I really did, and I gotta say that. I mean, I fucking found it. My life is not perfect, okay? I'm not saying that. But my life is fucking good, okay? And I am happy. You know, I don't have a lot of secrets. Like, you could look through my most private things, and there's not really anything there. That's what a lot of people are surprised when they meet me. They think, oh, you know, he's got all these things, and he probably has all this. It's like, no, he's pretty much who he is. This pretty much, you know, you guys are hearing the deal right here. And I like it that way. I like it that way because I realize that if I put any impediment in accepting and kind of cleaning out those rooms as they need cleaning out, and moving, getting new furniture, moving things around in my own life, in my own mind, I mean, not real furniture. I mean, like, you know, you're coming into a room and you realize it's kind of like you come into a room and you realize it's out of date, and you're like, there's these old computers in there, and there's like dusty and like, old desks that don't have, the chairs are not supportive, and there's no internet, right? You come in and you say, oh, get rid of these computers and, clean it up, take down this curtain and fucking let the light in, wash it up, maybe paint the walls, get the fast internet, and then a nice table, and you got yourself a nice workspace, right? So that's kind of what you're doing in your mind. That's what you're doing. You're kind of, those computers in that era, that in another era, that was perfect, right? But it doesn't work anymore, right? Now things have changed. You've changed, and that's the constant thing. And I think women and men feel this way. So I don't know that women actually have this huge regret about not getting married. I don't know that for sure. I hear women talk about how they feel a lot. Okay, so you have to be careful, because women will say, "Oh, I really regret this." But you got to go deeper, because do they, like, if you ask them, like, if you could go back, would you have married that guy in college? A lot of them will say no. I bet you. I can almost guarantee it. Because they'll say, well, I look around at my friends and they're not happy either. It's a general unhappiness with life. And that is kind of the reality of humans too. That none of us are living, nothing is perfect. We can't light a fire, like light a fart, cook a barbecue with our ass, and we like, I'd like that because it'd be very handy and easy. You just need a lighter or something, You just, cook up some chicken or something, Get a little olive oil on the vegetables, it's a little balsamic there. Clean them up. The most simple Ronin man life. But, we gotta, sometimes you gotta have a fucking stove, right? You gotta go to a restaurant. I like the simple stuff best. Sometimes it's not that simple, right? And so accepting this and realizing that you're wrong, realizing you're not always right, realizing that women are, I would say have an open-mindedness. If a guy who made a post-wall video is truly interested in this concept, okay, if you are, and I think somebody really should do this, actually, now that I really, suss this idea, like map this idea out, I think somebody should really find out how do women feel about not getting married? Because if I was a woman, I'd look around and I'd say most of my friends are not happy, right? They're in unhappy relationships, and they chose the wrong person, or they chose somebody that they've kind of outgrown, or they've outgrown them, or they have different desires. One wants to do that, one wants to live here, one wants to do that. Almost like a roommate. You're going to have. It's not easy to have a roommate, right? It can be very nice, and I think personally, being social is really a very healthy thing. A very healthy thing. As difficult as life is, it's easier. It's better than the alternative, which is like running away and not fulfilling those parts of yourself. So, these things are difficult, and I don't know for sure that women have this massive regret in the same sense that these videos are saying. You can ask your friends, how they feel, but you got to be careful, because whenever you're trying to research this stuff, it's very easy to get that confirmation bias, because a woman will tell you what you want to hear if you ask her. Sometimes they will. They'll realize what you're trying to ask, and then they'll just give it to you, right? But then you got to dig deeper and say, dig deeper and find what is the real situation. I think, okay, this is my kind of intuition on this one, is that marriage is kind of an outdated thing, and it doesn't really fulfill the concept of something like this fulfilling us. Is basically just a bunk idea. Marriage doesn't fulfill either the man or the woman. And so we're going to have mixed feelings about it. Definitely. Mixed feelings about marriage, mixed feelings about everything, because everything is a compromise. And especially when it comes to these type of things, And so I don't know. What do women feel when they're 35? I made that first video because I think guys have a right to be fucking men, and men like younger women. It's just the way it is. It's built into us. a man's preference. If you I read the annual report, annual data, whatever they release for Match.com, and also if you look at any data, like real data of men, what they look at as far as models, porn, all that stuff, is that a man's preference is pretty much set in his 20s, and it never really changes. Like he still likes the same age girls as he used to like. Guys really are very consistent, actually. And so they will, and it's probably, and like I said, it's like the bear, being a bear. Your first, this is the thing with society, is the first reaction is to go crazy, and like men are this and like just totally insane, like, they're all, it's like, no. Men don't change as far as their sexual preference, as far as the age that they like. They basically are always going to like that age. And there we go. I mean, that is a bear who does, like doing bear things. Men do men things. Women do women things. And a lot of it is just accepting that, and also realizing that we can, just because this is our ultimate desire, doesn't mean that we always can achieve it, or that we will always want, I don't know, like the same thing with those young ones. Like I might look at a picture of a girl, who's whatever the age that I would like when I'm in my 20s the most. But I might, at this age now, I do see things a little bit differently, and I realize that there are some problems when you date somebody who's, let's say, 30 years younger than you. Because I'm 54, right? I'll be 55 in January, right? So I could date somebody literally next, what is it? Yeah, no, let's see. Already I could date somebody 35 years younger than me. Is that right? Yeah, 18, 19. Yeah, I mean, it's like a long, big gap. And beauty-wise and actual, feeling of the skin, look of the skin, feeling of the, her general feminine vibe, her hormonal balance, everything in me as a man is very attracted to that. Okay, and that never changes. That probably will never change in my life. That is that men are designed to be men. Okay, that's what we're designed to be. Women are designed to be women, and part of life is just realizing these type of things about ourselves and others, and not judging, just like we wouldn't judge the bear. We're not going to judge the bear. Why would we judge the mosquito? Okay, there's no fucking way. This is ridiculous. This is insane. Okay, I gotta say that this is insane to do this. You cannot judge people for things that they can't help, like things that they're, and even more than that, things that they're born to do. They're born to do that. It might not be the best thing, right? But that's just the way it is. Like, you have to accept that. Your body goes into shock when you're in an accident. It's the fucking way it is. It's not good these days with medical technology. The doctor's job is to get you out of shock so he can treat you, because your shock is like slowing your body down, hibernating essentially, so that you don't bleed to death. But today, with medicine and with doctors and surgery, that is an impediment to healing. The doctor, if you're alone in the desert, it's good. But if you're in a hospital, it's not good. And so a lot of our instincts and our things that we have are not necessarily convenient with today's, with modern life. But it's like the doctor doesn't say, look at this idiot, he's going into shock. What a fucking idiot. Like, why doesn't he just not go into shock? Because we have all this medicine here. And here this knucklehead is going into shock. Like it doesn't, we go into shock. Like, that's the way it is, right? So that is what it's about. Accepting ourselves, accepting others. And I would have to say that rethinking this idea that we're always right, and that I guess the concept behind these post-wall videos is that marriage is kind of the happiness or something for women, like that they kind of missed their chance for this happiness. And I don't know. I really don't know. I know there's mixed feelings. I know that for sure. And I know that if you ask a single woman, she'll often say she wishes she was married. And the married woman will often say she wishes she was single. right? So if you just look at it one direction, you're not going to find the answer. You have to look at it from many perspectives with no bias in order to find the truth out. And the truth is there. The truth is there. Maybe there's a better solution for men and women, but I think more likely, the real answer is the angst of fucking life. Is that life is hard and nothing is going to fulfill you. There's no one way of being that's going to make you happy regardless. It's just the angst, it's the fucking difficulties of living a human life. And along with that, like I say, it's like the other aspect is that life is absolutely fucking beautiful. But it's very difficult. Every step of the way, every decision, you have mixed feelings about. And then life slips away as you get older, right? So it's like, it's fucking tough, man. And if you're saying like, women are not happy, like humans are basically not happy. It's a difficult thing to maintain that optimism and happiness in life, right? And your job and what you want to do, you want to have the best fucking life you can, and that happens not by looking for a simple solution, not by looking for the easy way, not by looking for the one thing that's going to solve every problem. It's that endless adjustment, right? Just like the rocket going to the moon. Apollo 13, exact same thing. All right, guys. So there's no answers in this one, but a lot of questions and a lot of analysis that might help you to get closer to the real answer. Because maybe those guys are right. Maybe those post-wall videos, maybe what they're saying is true, but you got to map it out. What are they actually saying? Are they saying that this and this and this, and go around and ask the other one too? Because again, if you ask, okay, let me just give one last example. Okay, if I ask anybody, do you like to live in Bangkok? They're going to have pluses and minuses to living in Bangkok. They're going to say, I like this, I hate this. I really hate this, the locals do this, I don't like that. The government does that, I don't like that. I love this part, I really love this. And then you ask another person, another city, do you like London, living in London? And they'll say, well, I don't like this, I like this, I don't like these changes, I don't like this, and this is too expensive, and it's hard to pay my bills, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's going to have different things. And then if you ask somebody, let's say you ask somebody in London, would you like to live in Bali? A lot of people are going to say yes, because they're going to have this concept that it's perfect over there. That where I am is difficult. Okay, the place I live is not perfect, but over there, see, because the weather's always good, it's sunny all the time, and it's the jungle, so it's going to be perfect. But the reality is, you take that person over there, and often they often can be happy. Okay, there are people who adjust everywhere and are kind of. Someone often asks me, like, do you like Bangkok? And do you like Tokyo? Do you like Shanghai? And I basically say, like, do you like Sweden? I lived in all these countries. I say, I am pretty much, honestly, I'm pretty much happy wherever I live. And they look at me like completely dumbfounded. They don't understand what I'm talking about. But that's kind of really pretty much how I look at it. Is there's pluses and minuses. I'm basically satisfied with my life. And it doesn't really matter where I live or even really what circumstances. Doesn't really affect this. And actually, statistical data backs up my internal feeling, is that people go back to their level of happiness, right? No matter something happens, they feel very bad for a few months, a couple, whatever it is, weeks, and then they go back to the happiness. And I found my happiness, which I think is internally generated and not a gift from God or from the earth. It's something that I work to maintain. I don't think it's a closed system. I don't think it's unchangeable thing. I think I have control of this. But in the end, I am basically satisfied and glad to be alive on this planet today. I am. I'm not saying that like as a motivation. Like I actually am happy to be alive today. And no matter what happens, literally to me, I'm happy. And that's kind of what I was talking about with the abortion thing. And because I am glad I'm alive. Like literally, I'm just glad I'm alive. Like even if I was in prison, I would be glad. I'm glad I'm alive. I think that being alive is an amazing thing. And the ability to experience this world. To hear the sounds, to smell the things, to meet other people, to talk to people, to improve myself, to feel my body, to challenge my body. You know, it's like all these things, they really are very fulfilling and enjoyable for me. So maybe what I'm saying is I live close to myself and not far away from myself. And so I'm going to end on that. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'm up going to do some yoga. And I'm actually in the house, which I'm not usually, but my friend's out. So we're just kind of hanging out here. He'll be back in a little bit. And hope you guys have a good day.